What I was saying during those contractions was mind-blowing to me.
Yikes. Okay, what's wrong? Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with him.
I don't want to scare anybody. We are parents of 2 now. I thought I'd be holding him for this video,
Yeah.
you know, and be like, here he is, here's the little pumpkin. But he's asleep over there.
He's cooling
right
it.
there. So we're trying to lay him down some, but
Yeah.
I hold him for the most part. So this video is all about the birth. I asked on my Instagram questions you had for me about the whole birthing experience.
Let's hear it.
There's so many good questions.
Okay, questions.
I want to preface our birth vlog is literally my favorite video ever. Watching it back, it just makes me emotional. It's the best experience ever. Wouldn't change a thing about how everything went, and we'll answer some of those questions. Yeah, so hopefully some of these questions will answer some unanswered questions you might have had watching the video.
It's the purpose of the questions.
Okay.
Let's get right to it.
Okay, here we go. Did we have a photographer in the room with us? No.
No.
Not like a
Not a
professional.
professional one.
My mom and my sister were there
For support.
but they had the job. My sister filmed our
On
whole
the vlog
vlog.
camera.
She held this camera that we're filming right now, did that. And then my mom had our phone because I wanted it all captured. And that's the thing, a lot of what was seen in the birth vlog is not even half of everything. We had to cut
Yikes.
we had to cut a lot out just to keep it more
PG. Rated.
obviously. So
Perf.
that's that question.
How's your sugar levels doing after?
Oh my gosh, it's wild. I knew that it'd be an adjustment, but like today is the first day that my Omnipod, the pod that carries my insulin on it, if you don't know what I'm talking about, expires today.
Yeah,
and there's
and it still has
50
insulin.
units left in
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it's
I've been
crazy.
putting the same amount of units in there because haven't known. Like,
And it was expiring in like less than 24 hours when you were pregnant.
Yes.
And now it's lasting 3+ days.
yes. And I've already had
Crazy.
to adjust my own numbers a few times by myself because I'm constantly in the lows. And through the night, I get really low. So I'm like constantly having to eat snacks, especially when I'm breastfeeding. I think I'm constantly burning calories. So that's why it's dropped so quickly.
Yeah.
So that is exciting. So my sugars have been great, but low. So we're trying to get a good balance so I don't
You almost
pass out.
last night.
I did. I was in the
At
middle
like 2
of
in
our
the morning.
bedroom floor and I woke up drenched in sweat and I had to use the bed.
She didn't wake up on the floor, by the way. She woke up in the bed, tried to walk to the kitchen, then got on
Ended
the floor.
on the floor.
You're like,
What?
like I was on our floor, just woke up in sweats.
Okay, I can see how that would have confused people.
Okay, anyway, so
Anyways.
sugar's doing good.
Okay, yeah, great.
Did
Okay.
you drink raspberry leaf tea and or eat dates?
I did not eat dates. First of all, barf. So my doula was like, typically recommends dates starting at like 30-ish.
I don't know.
I don't know the time.
Look it up.
Okay. But I
But
didn't
they're too
because
sugary.
they were very sugary. And I was like, if I don't have to have that much sugar, I'm not.
Yeah.
The raspberry tea, I'll go get the guy.
Yeah,
I got the squish.
there he is.
So I did drink tea starting about like 35-ish weeks, I think. I chugged that stuff. It was so good. There was no sugar in it. And so I drank it cold. I did drink that. So I'm like, did that help at all?
Probably. How long were you in labor?
I don't even know.
Probably like 12 hours.
You think?
Yeah, because you started contracting here at like, I mean, I would say roughly 8:30 or 9:30.
At
I
night?
think we had him at 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, because active labor probably started around like 10-ish that night.
Yeah. So like plus or minus 12 hours.
Yeah, we thought we were going to have him super quick because I was having contractions that whole week. Very sparse and nothing like true labor contractions. More like Braxton Hicks and stuff. But somewhere I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'm progressed. So then when true labor started, it was like constant. So yeah, active labor probably 12 hours.
Yeah. Did we take the decorations down before leaving or leave them? Yes, we took them down.
We let them keep the balloon so they could put it up in a new mom's room.
Okay. Did you have a natural birth / did you get an epidural / all those questions and
Okay,
answers?
so I went into this birth wanting to go natural, so no epidural. I thought I was going to be induced, which I was supposed to be induced, and literally I was supposed to go in at midnight to be induced, and labor started 2 hours before I went in, which is mind-blowing to me. So I never had to go have medication to induce my labor, and so I didn't want the epidural. I had nothing against that. I just wanted to do it without it, and whenever I had IV, I had like an epidural scare, and so I just was like, okay, this time I'm just going to go in with it in my mind that I'm not getting one. My doula and Hunter knew I didn't want an epidural. And so my doula, she was like, it's called like the epidural clause. And so basically, like, they know I don't want the epidural, but if I decided to get the epidural, then I would have to tell my nurse between a contraction. Because during contractions, you say all kinds of stuff. Like I was saying, somebody help me. I wanted to what I was saying during those contractions was mind-blowing to me.
You look crazy right now.
Why?
Because you're not pregnante anymore.
So they say what happens in the contraction stays during that contraction. So I went in, like I said, not wanting one. When we got to the hospital, I was having to breathe through contractions. So I couldn't talk at that point through them. But between contractions, I was great. Like Hunter made a comment.
I was like, this is the fastest you've ever moved. This is the best you've felt in 9 months.
I was just so energetic.
Between contractions, she was like running across the hospital room.
Yeah, I started reapply my makeup. Yeah. I was like, this is nice.
Who is this girl?
And then I'd be like, oh, 1 second, about to have a contraction. But then it kind of started picking up. But still, between contractions, I was okay. Sorry, this is kind of a long story through this question, but we'll get there, okay? I did get an epidural, and so we'll get there. My sister Sage was supposed to come because she was going to video, and he was texting her. He was like, hey, she is about a 3 to 4. And Sage was like, okay, great. Well, just tell me when she's a 7, and I'll head up there. And we were like, that's not how it works. Because she's never had a kid. We're like, it could change like that, like whatever. So we're like, no, go ahead and come because I'm in active labor. And we wanted like the whole process like filmed. So when I got there in my birth video, I think I said I was a 4 to 5 when I got there. I was actually a 3 to 4. And so within an hour, I went from a 3 to 4 and I jumped to an 8. It intensified very quickly. I was sitting on the ball actually, applying my makeup, and I was like, oof, that one hurt. I was like, this ball is uncomfortable because I could feel like the pressure. And so my doula was like, okay, well, let's like stand up. And then she was like, let's actually go sit on the toilet because you can actually like give into that pressure. They call the toilet the toilet the dilation station because it's just like you can really give into that pressure. So literally the first contraction I was sitting on there, I was like, something's coming out, and I was like, I think my water just broke, or did I pee? Which is so funny because it never broke on its own with Ivy.
Yeah.
And then it happened again through another contraction. I was like, oh my gosh, like I could feel it come out. Well, at that same time, my doula called our nurse and she was like, Katie, her water just broke. And then my mom and sister walked in. So it's like a lot just happened all at once. And they walked in. I was like, my water just broke. Like I was in between a contraction, could still talk. She was like, okay, well, let's get you on the bed. Like, let's see where you're at. So before I got up, she was helping me put on a Depends, and I wiped, and it was not just water, it was blood. And so I didn't think anything of it because I remember with Ivy when they broke my water, like I was bleeding. And so I didn't know it in the moment, but afterwards they were all very worried because they said they've never seen that much blood. Like my doulas. Because it wasn't just like blood, it was like clots and all that. So they were thinking multiple things. They were like, for 5 minutes we were worried, like, you know, it was about to be an emergent thing, all that. So they put me back in the bed, they checked me, I was an 8. And then at this point, contractions intensified because I no longer have that bag of water as a cushion. And so I'm in the bed, the doctor's coming in, the baby nurse is coming in. They're making sure, I guess, the blood was okay. Me and him were chilling, so they were like, oh, well, I mean, she's fine. But they were like, she's about to have this baby because my contractions were like 30 seconds apart, so I was getting no break. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm almost there. Like, this is painful, but I can do this. So then I went through, I guess, the transition period. I knew I was going through that because I started sweating, I started getting nauseous. My contractions just really were intense, and this was when I was like, I can't do this, like, whatever. And I had always heard once you get to that point, you're about to have your baby. And so then from there, I labored down because we're like, the baby's about to come, he's about to be here, we just need to like go work through some contractions. And then 2 hours later, nothing. I was still an 8.
Yeah.
And at this point, I was just over it. I was exhausted. My body
contractions were like 30 seconds
still
apart.
30 seconds apart this whole time. And so I just felt like I had no break. I remember even saying like, I need a push, like I'm feeling pressure down there, and you feel it like you have to poop. And so they even let me push one time, and he was moving down during those contractions, but my cervix was still all the way around. So they're like, you can't do that or it'll tear or whatever. So then I had it in my head, I'm like, I can't go through this anymore. Like, give me the epidural, because at that point I wasn't enjoying it anymore. Like, I was exhausted. I was like, I'm not even going to be able to enjoy holding him at this point. So they were like, you have to have fluids for 45 minutes before you get an epidural. So they hooked me up and I got in the bath just to kind of like be more comfortable. And then they went ahead and called him, and still 45 minutes later, I was still an 8. He came up there, and I remember even hearing him ask like what I am, and she was like, she's an 8. You know, because typically you hear that, you're like, well, baby's almost here. So total of 3 hours, I was an 8. And then I got the epidural, and it was the best thing ever because I got to rest, and still on the monitor, you could still see that my contractions were still so strong. And so from 4-ish in the morning till 9 when we had him, they were still just going. And then finally it was time to have him. You know, typically you hear the epidural slows down contractions and all that, but mine still were kicking. And I'm like, praise God I got the epidural when I did, because that was excruciating. But all that to say, now I can't remember what it feels like. It was empowering feeling that, like going through that natural labor all the way to an 8 and doing that. Like, I'm so proud of myself, and I wouldn't have changed a thing about it. I wouldn't have changed getting the epidural when I did. If I have another baby one day, which we're probably not, I would still try to go in natural again and without the epidural, but knowing it's there if I need it was great to know. And I'm so glad I did, because then I had such a peaceful birth.
Yeah.
It was like the best thing ever. Long story short.
Did you get an epidural? Your labor looked so peaceful.
So answer the epidural question. My labor was so peaceful. Like I said, I feel like my body worked it up to that point.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was so redemptive because of all what I went through. And then whenever it was finally time to have him, like in the video, if you watch it, like I didn't push. And which is wild, because typically if you can't feel anything, you know, you have to push. The fetal ejection reflex typically goes away with the epidural. And mine, he literally...
Because you labored for so long without the epidural.
Because I had so much oxytocin, so all the shakes and stuff, like my body was still high on oxytocin, and it was literally the most beautiful, peaceful thing. That's why I wouldn't change a thing about it. Like the labor process, and then when I got the epidural, when I did, like him just sliding out, like I literally get emotional thinking about it, because it was so peaceful and it was so beautiful. I can't even explain that moment. Like I felt like the hallelujah was like going around to me.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I was seeing angels and hearing the angels choir, and then hearing his sweet cry.
And I feel like he came into the earth so peaceful, and he's like still been the most peaceful little baby.
He has.
So it's almost like he, you know, just kind of kept on how he started.
Yes. And that's just so beautiful. I did have a few days after, like postpartum, because now I'm 2 weeks postpartum, and I feel great, but the first few days were kind of rough, and I thought about my birth experience a lot. It was definitely the enemy, because I wouldn't change a thing about it. But in the moment, I'm like, what went wrong? Like, why couldn't I finish without an epidural? Like, I was really being down on myself about it, and I had my doula come over, and we just talked it through, and she even brought up so many points. She was like, Devin, it happened exactly how it was meant to happen, and God is so evident in all of that. Like we were just talking about how the Lord hears us and wants to give us the desires of our hearts, but sometimes the desires of our hearts are different than what he has for us. And so she's like, he did give you so many desires of your hearts. Like you prayed that you would go into labor on your own, and you did. Like I didn't have to be induced, and then you had the experience, you got to go through that of the natural labor like you did. And yeah, I went in not wanting the epidural, but even getting that like brought us to have the most peaceful birth experience ever. And I was like, that is so true. God's favor was just upon us for sure, and all of that. And my doula was reading scriptures over me during some contractions, and I felt so much peace even through the pain and whatnot. The birth was so peaceful.
Yeah.
I have no regrets. Absolutely none. It was amazing.
No regrets.
No regrets.
Your labor gown. Lots of questions about that.
Oh yeah, I loved my labor gown. I got it from Amazon. I have it linked on my Amazon storefront under hospital bag. You could connect it front, back, arms, all that, and it was so soft and stretchy. The brand is Kindred Bravely, and they have different colors, but I got black, just my colors. And then I remember in the hospital, I was like, do we throw this away? Because it was pretty gross. And I was like, I can't. So it's home, hanging up in my closet, still all the stuff on it.
No, we washed it. Goofball. Were you scared at all, even though this was your second?
Of course I was. Well, I went in with it with such a peace. I was so excited. But then there were split seconds. Like I remember when I saw the blood, and even though they didn't tell me what was going on, I could see it on people's faces. You know, just the normal anxieties and worries. But I truly feel like being in prayer, and like even like Angela reading those scriptures over me.
Yeah.
And then knowing that like Sage and all them prayed over the bed before I even went. And like I didn't know that until after. His presence was just in the room with me. But also I just went in with it knowing, like, yes, I have a birth plan, but knowing that things could change at any minute and being okay with it. Not really having expectations, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why I was so okay getting the epidural, because it's like I just knew I wanted the birth experience I wanted. I wanted to call the shots. Like I wanted to be in control, and I was. Like everybody listened to me. Nobody made me feel forced to do something or not. Like that's why I have no regrets, is because I led the way in the sense, you know?
Kill it.
Yeah. Like I knew who my support people were and all that. Being educated helped a lot with pregnancy anxiety and birth anxiety, because I kind of like was like, okay, in this moment, what's happening right now? And I was trying to think through and all that. And so all that helped. I definitely had moments of fear and anxiety, but I just had to cast those out in Jesus' name.
What was his details on his birth weight and his info?
Okay. So I was 37 weeks and like 3 days-ish at the point when I had him. And he weighed 7 pounds, 5 ounces. He was 20 inches long. Is that all the details?
Yeah.
Okay. Ivy was 5'12", and if you were to ask me if there was a difference, he's so cute. If you were to ask me if there was a difference in the feeling of it down there, no. But also with Ivy, I felt more because the epidural had worn off.
Yeah.
So I felt like the ring of fire with her, but she was still so small.
Well, you could definitely tell he was
shot
bigger
out.
in your belly, though.
What's crazy
as far as
is
your-
I pushed for 8 minutes with Ivy, and I thought that was fast. But whenever I felt him, and I was like, he's down there. I feel like I need to poop. And then I was like, oh, they took my catheter out. And literally, when she took that out, like the
He just
doctor
slid
was
out.
coming in the room, and she was like, put your gloves on. That's when I was like, I'm not pushing. I was literally just breathing because I was so excited and just like emotional. And they were like, just breathe through it. And so I was just relaxed, and I could feel him come out, and it was so beautiful.
Yeah, no cap. Ivy's birth plan versus Bruce's birth plan.
We didn't do a birth plan for Ivy. We just went in blindly.
We didn't know what that was.
Yeah. And so we went with
Whatever they suggested.
yeah, the motions, all that. And then with him, we just were educated, and I do have a video, one of the last Q&As we did. You can look. We kind of talk about the birth plan and just like basic things we had in there. I did feel more empowered with his birth because, like I said, I called the shots.
You killed it, Mom.
Thanks.
Who does he look more like?
Gosh, he looks so much like Ivy did whenever she was a newborn baby.
Yeah.
But then some moments he looks completely like himself. Like he don't look like her or one of us. I feel like he looks more like Hunter, like Hunter's baby pictures. So he just has lighter features, like lighter hair and all that. So I'm curious what he'll look like in a few months.
Did you tear?
I did not tear, which is wild because with Ivy, like she was so little.
Yeah.
I tore like a 1 degree, I think. So it wasn't bad. And with him, I didn't tear at all. And so I'm like, why? That's amazing. That feeling of him coming out was crazy. I still can't get over it.
I know. Somebody asked why you were shaking so bad.
Okay, it's normal. So we
normal.
mentioned like the oxytocin and stuff, which I've been educated on all that because before I didn't know. Because before with Ivy, I thought it was the Pitocin that was making me shake. So many things during birth can give you the shakes.
Yeah.
Most women say they had the shakes, and so a lot of it can be from the epidural, it can be from the Pitocin, it can be all of it together. And so for me, I was shaken before I got any kind of medicine. So that was just that natural oxytocin.
Yeah.
And
Your body
releasing
is
in your
going through a
body.
lot.
Yeah.
And you're about to push a baby out.
But didn't she say it's like a surge of hormones? So it's like, don't fight the shakes, just go through it. And it felt good just to kind of relax and shake it out. But I enjoyed the shakes.
She likes the
Oh,
shakes.
wait, you know what was funny? When we were sitting on the potty and she was like, I was shaking so bad, she said, I know this is weird, but stick out your tongue.
Yeah.
And I stuck out my tongue. The shakes stopped.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, for like a split second. And then I started back. And so I would just go,
Did you self-tan before delivery?
yes. Hunter spray tanned me the night before, actually.
How about your induction?
So, like I said, I was supposed to be induced that night at 8 p.m. They called me that day and they rescheduled it till 12. I forgot all these details. The week before I went, my doctor checked me and I was already 1 centimeter dilated. I was still high, like my cervix was high and all that. And then they actually sent me to L&D. Do you remember that? Because I was having like a few high blood pressures. But whenever there, everything calmed down or whatever. Well, he was like, well, we're already close to that 37-week mark. Let's go ahead and schedule you. Originally, I was supposed to be induced July 18th. Well, because of that scare, he moved it up a few days. So he was like, you're going to come in July 15th at 8 p.m. We're going to start you on Cytotec. So Cytotec is like a cervical softener. And then he was thinking he would come in that Tuesday morning. So if I started Cytotec that night, then by that next morning, he could start me on Pitocin. So I was like, okay, great. So the next week, that Monday, I was supposed to get in at 8. Again, they called me. They moved it to midnight. It just shows how God works too. Because I was kind of bummed they moved my time back. But if they didn't move it back till midnight, I would have went in and they would have probably started me on Pitocin right away. Because I was already effaced. Like my cervix was softened. But at that point, I wasn't having true labor contractions. So they would have started me on that and I would have never known that my body would have went in naturally.
Yep.
Bonkers.
And
So-
you would have probably been slammed into labor. Your stuff is already building up naturally, and then they would have started you on that Pitocin. So you would have just, could have been kind of crazy.
Yeah. And so, yeah, no, I wasn't induced at all. And I went in before midnight. So when I was having true labor contractions, it was messing with my head because I'm like, I'm not supposed to be in labor because I'm supposed to be getting induced.
Yeah.
Like, am I truly in labor? And then do I wait till midnight to go in? But thankfully, my nurse who was going to be there, I have her number and we were texting and she was like, I'm about to head up there. Just go ahead and come. I sent her a screenshot of my contractions. And at that point, they were like 2 minutes apart
yeah.
for 45 seconds. And I'm so silly. I didn't know that was like real labor. Looking back now.
We were like, should we go?
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. You made it.
Yeah.
How did nurses manage your diabetes induce during labor.
They didn't.
You did.
I did. And they like preferred that. They were like, no, you know it best, whatever. Now there were a few times that they asked you like, what are her sugars? And he would just pull it up on a phone. There's some pictures of you, like when I was in the bath, you had my Omnipod. That's because I got high, right?
Girl, I don't remember.
Yeah, I think you gave me insulin. Because I think it kind of spiked during contractions because my blood pressure was getting high and all that. So that made a difference. Because when I'm stressed, my blood sugar gets higher. And my body was definitely stressed.
A little. How's your pain level?
During contractions, if they asked me to rate it on a scale of 10 to 10, I would have said like 100.
10 to 10.
0 to 10. I don't know. It's just crazy. I don't want to scare anybody.
There's so many questions on here about like, how's your pain? I'm absolutely terrified.
Don't be scared. Go in it. Educate yourself. It is very empowering feeling that. I mean, I was screaming, you know? I thought I was louder than I was, but they kept saying I wasn't that bad. But in the moment, I was like, somebody help me. But it's because I was so mentally, at that point, I started panicking.
Well, you were good until you got stuck at an 8 for 2 hours. And then it starts setting in like in your mind, like you're thinking, okay, what's wrong? Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with him. You know, something's not working. And then you start getting discouraged.
I got very discouraged.
Whereas before, like your mindset was like, I'm an independent woman and I can do this kind of thing. You know?
For real.
So you have to go in with that mindset, knowing that you're going to be in pain.
Well, yes, because it's pain with a purpose.
Right.
And that's exactly right. Like even through those very painful things, like looking back at the start of the videos, I was very controlled and relaxed and breathing like I should. Like he said, when I got discouraged and I got in my head is whenever I got scared and I started panicking because I'm like, what's wrong?
Because then like
why is it
the
not
epidural
happening?
clause thing, when you said you want an epidural, it was like, if you don't give me an epidural right now, I'm gonna
whenever
blow this place.
when I decided to get an epidural, game over. It was like, give it to me now.
Yeah.
Like I remember even telling Katie, I'm like, Katie, where's he at?
Yeah.
Because she was like, he was probably asleep and on call.
It was.
And
It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. I was just scared to have contractions. I didn't want them to poke me with a needle. And so I'm like, how do I sit this
several
still?
times, like, am I going to be paralyzed from this?
I got scared last time with the epidural. And so that's what they encouraged me to.
Yeah.
But so that it went away. Like I was like, I'm getting the epidural. Even if what happens last time happens again, like give it to me.
Yeah. I need a break, 5 minutes at least.
Yeah. But you're going to be fine. If you decide that's what you want, long story short, I would do it again. Like I would go in again and go through all that. And next time, like I said, I would go saying I'm not getting epidural again.
Right.
And then if I need it, it's there. But if not, like, okay.
Yeah. Did you have back labor?
So that's what we were thinking, like, is it his position why the cervix won't be complete right now? Because the back pain was what was so bad. It's like I didn't even feel it anymore in the front. And so that I would consider that a little back labor. But Hunter and my doula, they were like doing counter pressure and that helped a lot. It really takes your pain from like a 10 to like a 9. I'm just kidding, like less than that maybe.
So far, is it harder going from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2?
0 to 1.
0 to 1, 100%.
This has been so nice. We're 2 weeks in, so knock on wood, but it has been such a different thing. And we've talked about it. We're like, it might be us. Like we've gone in with it with more confidence. 0
to 1 kids is, to me, 1,000,000 times harder because it's like
we didn't know what the heck we were doing.
We didn't know what we were doing. Like you're by yourself. You don't have any responsibility. And then now all of a sudden you have a kid and your life is changed.
I remember that was more testing of us in our relationship with her. But this time it's made us so much closer.
Yeah,
like
that is true.
We've already been through that.
Yeah.
But he's been so easy. So far it's been great.
I mean, it's like you kind of know what to do. You already have responsibilities. It's not like a huge addition.
You're only learning like a new kid. You as a parent's already there. You're already established as a parent and all that.
Yeah.
So it's been good. I would think going from 2 to 3 is going to be harder than going from 1 to 2.
Yeah, depending on their age.
There's a question like how Ivy has been, and she has been the best. She's not jealous at all. Like we also are careful like how we word things and all that, but she's always kissing him, and so much so we have to be like, okay, give him space. But she is like the best big sister and such a good help. Her little stool is in his room by the dresser, and I just think it's so cute sitting there. She just gets up there and watches him change his diaper and tries to help.
Yeah.
So their age gap is 3.5, and I think that was like perfect for us.
Definitely.
We probably missed out on so many like good questions about the birth experience in labor, but all in all, to say this was our experience, this was my experience, but I don't want anybody to leave feeling discouraged, or I hope anything you feel like encouraged. What?
I thought you were about to say, I don't want anybody to leave feeling discouraged or encouraged.
So if you choose to get epidural, if you choose to not get epidural, you just make that decision based on you and how you feel and what you need. I feel like I can say I've done both in a way. No regrets there. The pain's gone. Like, I can't even remember it.
Right.
And it's gone. My body, it's sore, but that's it. Regardless, like, he's here and that's all that matters. Like, how he got here was cool and all, but I'm just glad he's here. So let us know what kind of content y'all want to see.
It's a new chapter.
Thank y'all for being here for all of this. It's been so exciting. If we need to do a part 2 with more questions, we can. Just let us know if we've missed questions.
Let us know in the comment box down below.